What does Dr. Phil think about demons? Have you ever wondered that? I have. So we're going to talk about that today. The episode was called Young, Possessed, and in Love, and the title is, You Guys Are Now in a Trap. Dr. Phil tells couple who believe they're possessed by demons. So he had Dr. Bob Larson, who's an exorcist, on his show, which Dr. Bob Larson actually talked to me personally about this episode, said he was not treated well because he was actually on the Dr. Phil show in the past. But let's react to this. Let's watch this. What does Dr. Phil think about demons? Probably what you already think he thinks. Let's watch this.
Victoria's father says she was a happy child until one day he came home from work and found a very different little girl.
So she says she's seeing demons. He's saying these people are not drug addicts. They're not alcoholics. He doesn't seem like he's buying it, but he says like.
Well, Mark is joining us now. Thank you for being here. Do you perceive your daughter to be demon possessed?
No.
Why do you question whether or not she's demon possessed? Why do you think that?
I just don't believe that. I don't see it. I don't hear her, screaming.
This is the common misconception. By the way, I'm going to pause it because if not, we'll get hit with copyright, and I'm going to commentate here. This is the common misconception about people that have demons. People think if you have a demon, it's going to be obvious. But understand that every army uses camouflage for a reason. There's power in being undetected. There's power in being hidden. So the devil's goal is to camouflage himself so you don't know he's there. Because if you know the demon's there, then you're going to seek deliverance. You're going to seek freedom. So, of course, a demonized person is often a normal person. The people that we're casting demons out of, these are normal school teachers, police officers, businessmen. I just did deliverance on a guy this last week who's a police officer. These are not crazy, growling, talking to themselves, walking in front of Walmart type of people. These are everyday, normal, average people. These demons aren't going to start screaming out of you often. Those might be like extreme cases of demonization, but the average person that has a demon will not exhibit signs other than maybe they hear a voice. Maybe they have an overwhelming desire to do something. Maybe something's pulling them towards. They have these overwhelming, dominating thoughts, recurring nightmares. These could be signs of demonization, but the idea that someone's going to be growling and screaming and, in the back room, like it's the Exorcist movie. That's not the way demonization works. That's not the way deliverance works, at least in my experience. And I've seen thousands of people be delivered, and I cast demons out of someone yesterday. I actively practice deliverance. So his reasoning is, and it makes sense because maybe he just doesn't know, but his reasoning is, I don't think she has a demon. Which, by the way, in another episode of this, her boyfriend already got delivered. So that's kind of where they left off.
Thinking that. I just don't believe it. I can't.
My thinking is this. You guys are now in a trap because you see yourself as being cleansed and her not.
So he's been delivered. This is only a 4-minute clip of the episode. She hasn't been, and he's wanting her to get delivered, something like that.
And so you're afraid of her being demon possessed, and if she doesn't buy in to the concept and get cleansed, then here you are with some demon possessed woman. There's 200.
That's not the right thinking to have. Guys, if you're listening to this, you should not be looking at your spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend or family member and being like, you need to get delivered or we can't be together. You can't be. This is not the proper way. People need to want to be delivered for themselves. People need to seek deliverance on their own. This is not something where we force people into it. We make them go through deliverance. This is not the right way to go about it if you're trying to force someone. So if that is his thinking, that's wrong thinking because the devil recognizes free will. You have to want to be free. You have to want to be delivered. This is not something you want to force on anyone. So if you're out there trying to force your friend or family to get delivered, not the right way to go about it. So this is what Dr. Phil's answer is.
97 diagnoses in this diagnostic and statistical manual.
So he says there's 297, and that says Diagnostic of Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition, DSM-5. I have no clue. This is apparently 300 different mental illnesses that he's saying, this is something you should go through. This is something you should do instead. Okay, I had to pause the video. I just had to go someone at the door. I had some Mormons at the door witness to me, and then I ended up witnessing to them, telling them my testimony. So that was interesting. Okay, let's keep going here. So Dr. Phil, where did I leave off? Dr. Phil is basically going to show this 300 mental disorders, and this is what the world, of course, is going to do. If you say you have a demon, it can't be a demon. It has to be a mental disorder, and oftentimes demons get labeled as mental disorders. So for example, not every mental disease or illness is a demon, of course. That's not the case. But I think more often than not, mental disorders are demonic in nature. Like if you go to the doctor and say, and I know people who have done this because they've gone through this, I have seeing things, I'm hearing voices, they're going to say you're mentally ill, you have schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is characterized as hearing voices and seeing images or dark figures or mirages, whatever they want to call it. So the doctor's not going to say you have a demon, they're going to say you have schizophrenia, so they're going to prescribe you some medication. Is the medication going to get the demon to leave? Of course not. So doctors do what they do, and ministers do what they do. And we don't deal with the natural sense or medication or the physiological. We deal with the spiritual side of it. So the answer is not, most of the time, go through 300 mental disorders and figure out what you have. I mean, how exhausting is that? The answer is, if it is a sickness, it's a chemical imbalance in your brain, which oftentimes is not even documented or verified or confirmed. It's just, oh, this is what we're going to do. We're going to diagnose you this. Then God can heal you. And if it's a demon there, then God can deliver you. God can do that. And God can also use medicine. But I think oftentimes we go saying I have manic depression or I have schizophrenia or I have this. Doctors are quick to diagnose when in reality, it could be a demonic spirit. Demons are not rare like often people think they are.
Manual of the American Psychiatric Association that I would work through before I went to some paranormal higher order.
There's Dr. Bob Larson who does deliverance. So Dr. Phil says, before you go to some exorcist, you should work through all of these. And that's what we think he'd say, right? I don't know if he's a medical doctor, psychologist, therapist. I don't know what he is his degree in. But of course, this is what the world looks at demonization, which is extremely common. They look at it as mental illness. And mental illness is at an all-time high right now. Like, it peaks out. It's peaking out right now, and which is why we need deliverance massively in the church. Again, not every mental disorder or illness is a demon, but oftentimes it is demonic.
Level of explanation, because this is something that you can do something about. And
what can you do about it? What do you mean you can do something about it? What are you going to do? Now you find out you have a disease, you have schizophrenia, so now you just medicate yourself. I had someone on my show last week who is medicated on every pill, schizophrenic, this, that, depression, this, and turned her into a zombie. So what do you mean if you find out what you have, you can do something about it? A lot of people that are on these antidepressants, which they're finding out now, antidepressants don't even change your serotonin levels, end up oftentimes worse than they are before. So it's been known that a lot of these medications don't work.
I look through here, I can't diagnose you sitting here because I would have to go through a whole lot of diagnostic process to do it. But I can tell you on the short list of considerations would be post-traumatic stress disorder from what you've been through, chronic depression.
Okay, so she went through an RAPE and started, a lot of the stuff started from that. He's saying that you have PTSD. I would say that was probably the open door. And this is something we encounter over and over again. People saying it started here when I went through this specific trauma. And most people that are dealing with this had a trauma in their childhood where that spirit was able to gain access. And again, I had someone on the channel last week who had that testimony, just a radical testimony of how God delivered her. But yeah, this is how the world looks at it.
Depression and anxiety, certainly potential of personality damage and disorders from what has happened to you that has never been tended to.
Why can't this be a possibility of a demonic attack? You know?
Look, I don't...
So she's asking Dr. Phil, why can't it be a demon? Why does it have to be one of the 300 mental illnesses described in this encyclopedia that I have to exhaustively go through or get diagnosed with? Why can't it be a demon?
Rule out any possibilities, but look, this is chess, not checkers. This is a complex situation. And what I'm saying is, what this gentleman is telling you is if you called him, he would have done an exorcism with you over the phone.
Not necessarily. That's not fair.
Well, you offer it for $295.
But I might not have done that.
Pardon
So
me?
You're putting a template on this that's avoiding the spiritual reality of what we have going on.
I'm just reading your website.
Well, but wait a minute. It's okay.
Of course, Dr. Bob Larson is going to look like the crazy one here because, you know, he's talking about deliverance and all the audience is like, oh, demons aren't real.
It's okay to just take the DSM, lay it out there, and avoid the spiritual world. It's the spiritual world that we're dealing in. It intersects with the psychological world.
Yes. Ephesians chapter 6, our battle's not against flesh and blood. There's an unseen realm. Colossians 1:16, 2 Corinthians 4:18. Focus on the unseen, not the seen, for what is unseen is eternal. What is seen is only temporary. And I might have flipped that around there. Colossians 1:16, God creates the invisible and the visible realm. The invisible is more real than the visible realm. Ephesians 6 says our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against spirits, persons without bodies, personalities we're fighting.
From time to time. But you cannot take that template and put it on something that has a reality.
Well, sir, I'm going to tell you, I believe I am dealing with the spiritual world. I'm not sure what you're dealing with.
No, you're not, Dr. Phil. Don't lie. That's cap right there. You're not dealing with the spiritual because you're telling her, get diagnosed and get medication. That's the answer. So you're not dealing with the spiritual. You're dealing with the natural.
I'm sure what I'm dealing with.
No one knows what they're clapping at either.
And you have not been there to see what I'm dealing with.
But I do know this, you're in a trap now. You do know that you've been damaged.
Correct.
You do know that you've been hurt.
100%.
And you do know that there is help available for them.
Okay, so that's what we probably thought he would say about demons. This is what the world would say is just get diagnosed, just get medication. But the thing is, you can't medicate a demon out of somebody. You can't counsel a demon out of somebody. You can't talk a demon out of somebody. The answer is exorcism. This is what Jesus did. Jesus didn't say, oh, we just need to go through. Jesus cast the demon out of people. And so deliverance is massively needed right now. It's massively needed in the world. As mental illness climbs, the need for deliverance climbs. Now, again, not everything is a demon. No one preaches that. No one believes that. Not every mental illness is a demon. Nobody teaches that. No one I know believes that. But there are often times where people have a demon and we label them mental illnesses. And you can literally just look up how they diagnose mental illnesses. I just recently talked to a lady that got a whole bunch of medication for depression. And I said, what did you tell the doctor? She said, well, I just told him I've been feeling down and I've been feeling depressed. And they right there prescribed me. No chemical tests, no scanning the brain, no MRI, none of that. It was just, here's a bunch of medication. And then after, she felt worse. She felt like a zombie. So this is what I'm saying. A lot of times we're misdiagnosing things. If it's a demon, you need to get deliverance. If it's a chemical imbalance, I would pray healing. And then if not, there's medication for it. But how are we proving these things? How are we testing these things? I've yet to meet someone legitimately that said, I have this chemical imbalance, doctors ran tests, and they're going through it. Again, I'm not discrediting anyone that has this, but there's freedom and deliverance available. It's selfish to not tell people you can be free and you can be delivered. So I don't think the answer is going through 300 mental disorders and finding out what you have. I think that the deliverance and mental illness intersect. I believe that there are times where it is a mental illness, not a demon. But again, we got to believe that God is our physician, that Jesus is the master physician. Nothing against doctors, nothing against medicine. Half of my family are doctors and nurses. But we can't neglect the spiritual element and the spiritual realm and the spiritual implications of somebody saying, a voice is telling me to take my life. A voice is making me feel this, or a voice is telling me this, or I'm hearing this. And every time I walk in a room, I'm hearing all these different voices and all this chaos because oftentimes these people need deliverance. So we have a deliverance movie coming out March 13th. Go check it out. Comeoutinjesusname.com. We are continuing to preach what Jesus preached. What did Jesus do in Mark 1? Jesus cast out devils. Mark 1:39, he went from synagogue to synagogue casting out demons. Mark 1, Mark 3, Mark 5, Mark 9, Luke 13. All throughout the Gospels, Jesus cast out devils. It continues through the book of Acts. I don't know why the church has decided we're going to ignore this. It doesn't matter. Deliverance is real and freedom is available. Let's not sell ourselves short. We'll see you guys in the next video.